No, it's I don't know. I haven't figured that part out yet. To be honest, I prefer to just have people on time. I'd take that. We might just start. If you want to find a spot. I assume the others are on their way. So what I will do is hopefully I can't see now who's also in the Zoom space, but I would welcome everyone to this evening's Urban and Environmental Theory session as part of the MIS in Urban and Territorial Design, postgraduate course run between the EPFL here in Lausanne and the ETH in Zurich. A 1 year's postgraduate course, sort of attempting to move beyond the normal Raumplanung or sort of urban design and into sort of the broader issues of a social and ecological transition. The urban and environmental theory sessions are sort of the public place of discussion for the EPFL semester, where we sort of have invited guests coming, giving talks on themes that relate to our semester. The semester's title this year being the Counterprojects of Coexistence, where we're very much looking at different forms of project making, as well as different forms of projects. And in the studio ourselves, we are looking at very much at the social actors, or the role of social activism, of sort of the weak structures in our environments, in both our urban, social and ecological environments, and how that they can become sort of the new forming structures. And the previous sessions have included speakers such as Simon Tessu and Silvia Federici, and most recently we had Cabu Heindl and Doina Petrescu giving a double session. And so today we get to welcome NICOLAS DÉTRIE and KLAUS OVERMEYER, two further practitioners and speakers, talkers, teachers, as they are. KLAUS OVERMEYER, will speak first, has taught in he's German practicing landscape architect, taught in multiple universities from TU Berlin to Hochschule Liechtenstein or two, and especially then he's the head of the landscape architecture department at the Bergische Universität in Wuppertal in Germany as well. And then from 2001 to 2003, he was involved in the Urban Catalyst project with Philipp Oswald and Philipp Misselwitz, I think. Or Klaus, you can correct me if I get that wrong. Oh, yes. A sort of a research project based on the idea of temporary Zwischennutzung, or temporary use of space. Again, around Germany, obviously Berlin that time was a crucial space of operation. And then out of that grew the office Studio UC, or Studio Urban Catalyst, with Philipp Misselwitz as well, from 2005-2007. And now he's also the head of the landscape architecture at Bergische Uni in Wuppertal. And NICOLAS DÉTRIE, a French practitioner, studied economics in France, if I have that right, doing a master's in Brazil, where sort of the idea of these sharing and collaborative economies sort of really took hold in his work. And then later on forming the Atelier de Sergi, sort of a collaborative workshop focused on developing urban strategies. And then later again, the Yes We Camp Collective, forming that in 2013 in Marseille. And they have done a lot of work throughout France. In Marseille itself, in Paris, there is the project that I guess I know most, at least, Les Grands Voisins, and this idea of temporary publics, so temporary people, temporary spaces, how that they may be sort of inhabited, and then developed, and then out of that developing long-term strategies with both the people, or for both the people and the spaces. And so now I'm going to give you the floor, Klaus, to introduce yourself if you feel the need to much further, and to give the first presentation of the evening. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Mike. Also for the invitation. I'm very sorry that I can't be in Lausanne tonight, but next time I will come, I promise. When I talked to Mike before the election, he told me about your seminar on counterprojects. Usually I'm a very optimistic person, and I'm not against things, but more in favor of projects and dynamics. But I think that the term counterproject is very typical for our time, and that there are a lot of impediments on a global as well as on a micro level to transform our spatial surroundings, but also our social environments. And in my brief lecture, I will try to give you an insight wait a moment. To give you an insight our work at Urban Catalyst, and then I will try to draw your attention to the challenges in spatial transformation, the trend that there is a high demand on more participation in urban planning, but also in social processes. And I want to draw the line from counter projects to co-productive developments. And I want to give you a brief insight into two of our projects. As Mike told you, Urban Catalyst has been a research project, and I'm founder of the studio Urban Catalyst in 2004. And today, Urban Catalyst is an office based in 3 German cities, in Berlin, Hamburg, and Wuppertal, where I am now. And we are around 30 people with very different backgrounds, ideas, and perspectives. We put high attention to work in self-organized and interdisciplinary teams. And what unites us all is the strong belief in urban change and in the power of the people who use and make the city. Originally, Urban Catalyst was a research, EU-funded research project on the power of temporary use at the beginning of the millennium. I did it together with Philip Oswald and Philip Misowitz. And we investigated the power of temporary use, the potential of temporary uses in 5 European metropolitan areas, in Amsterdam, Helsinki, Vienna, Naples, and Berlin. And we try to find out which impact the informal or the temporary users have on formal planning processes. We did a deep research on DIY urbanism, so on a user-based urban development. And this was also the basis for our main tools and methodologies at Urban Catalyst today. We are specialists in spatial transformation and also in process design of transformation processes. What was very specific about Berlin in the 90s was, after reunification, there were a lot of plans for more than 6 million inhabitants. Berlin, as you know, Berlin became capital after reunification again, and everybody thought, well, the city is growing and we have to make big plans. But on the contrast, in the first 15 or 20 years after reunification, nothing happened, and a lot of spaces remain empty. Also in the middle of the city, in the city center. And on the other hand, these open spaces and these brownfields became a breeding ground for a lot of spontaneous and informal uses, like the club culture, the music scene, new local entrepreneurs, flea markets, or even informal housing, or new sports, like here. This was right near to Potsdamer Platz, golf driving range in the middle of the cities. I think this picture was taken at the end of the 90s. And you had these, all over the city, you had these trailer camps, startups, or this guy who invented a patent how to tune percussions with a bike tube. And we mapped all these users and tried to find out how their impact was on the spatial but also social environment of and a development of the adjacent neighborhoods. Of course, we also launched a discussion on the ideal city. We all are rooted in this modern belief that the city can heal our problems. And we as architects and urban planners, we still have these spatial imaginations of how a city should look like, but in the end, there are a lot of dynamics which make the city look different. And some architects, they get in a deep crisis if they see all the ugly buildings and ugly dynamics in their well-shaped city. But on the other hand, I think that between these poles, among an ideal city shape on the one hand and the informal activities on the other hand, a lot of power for transformation is in this contradiction. We also wrote some books, a publication on the research project. It's here on the left-hand side. And then in 2007 or 5, I don't know, we published, made a publication for the Senate of Urban Development in Berlin on informal open space uses, which were driving force for also for this Berlin slogan, poor but sexy. And in 2014, we more focused the entrepreneurial power of temporary users. And in our research, we found out that a lot of these temporary users became kind of DIY developers, and they try to consolidate their uses, and they developed spatial but also entrepreneurial visions for a site and implemented them. And this was very interesting, and we found out that one could learn a lot from these consolidation processes. And in a publication for Vienna, we also made a research on the impact of temporary users on creative city development. Yeah, we mainly work in Germany and Switzerland, sometimes also in Austria. And in our office, we have 4 business segments. One department concentrates on co-development and planning, on participatory planning processes, mostly on a more strategic level. Then we have teams which work in communication and moderating and negotiation and of complex transformation processes. We do have some people who do urban research and try to transfer these research results into urban change processes. And some of our clients, they also ask us for consultancy. And we have some principles in our work. We always try to enter a new territory in urban and spatial transformation. We work at very different scales. We like and we have a high passion to combine the microcosms with the macro scale of regional and urban planning. We are convinced that we have to integrate different perspectives, also conflicts and disciplines in our planning. We believe in co-creation and collaborative planning, and we practice what we preach. So our internal organizational structure is based on, it's also based on flat hierarchies and a strong participation. And this is what we try to implement in our projects and try to envision with the stakeholders in our projects. The main challenges in urban transformation processes, they are that we right now that we are in a time where global challenges, where they have a direct impact on our individual modes of living. And this global and local dimensions of change, they intertwine. And the cities, they are kind of mediator between these two poles. And therefore, I think it's very, these cities have a very important role and an important task to implement national goals of sustainability, or to set some rules and give a strategy on how cities should change concerning mobility, climate adaptation, housing, or new modes of working. Well, we all know these challenges in our current work, whether it is demographic change or challenges in the scope of climate and energy policy, the economic structural change caused by digitalization, while the demand to economic sustainability and the acceleration and internationalization of investment cycles. All the cities, they compete with each other, and they compete for young professionals and well-educated people. And this has also a strong impact on how cities transform. Pradmond Malik from St. Gallen University, he is the author of this diagram, which illuminates the great transformation. So on the one hand, we have still a strong belief in the old system, and which is based on an immense or an enormous use of resources. And on the other hand, we have a rise of new systems which are often linked with a radical change in the system. And at the moment, I think we are in a phase where we are confronted with an increasing complexity, with increasing dynamics and an increasing uncertainty. And to all of us, it has become clear that we have to shift some key resources, but we do not know how we can steer these transformation processes. And there is a high degree of uncertainty, not only in planning, but in many levels of social development. From our view as planners, we are also confronted with different driving forces of spatial development. So we all have still this strong belief in our planning ideas. And there's also a strong driving force of, well, let's do it like we have ever done it. And on the other hand, you have multiple groups of different actors and stakeholders who claim their own city and who bring their own ideas of change into these developments. And last but not least, the scientists, they tell us, well, if we want to live in a world which is which gives resources to all people, we have to change. And within these driving forces, our we are about to update our self-understanding as planners. At Urban Catalyst, we work with a very important tool we invented. It's our transformation compass, and we try to integrate in this compass, and in our plannings we try to integrate different factors. One very important factor is the purpose. So usually our purpose is to do a well-designed building or a city quarter. And I think in future, the main purpose is more focused on the question, how do we want to live in this space or in this neighborhood? And what are the values? What is the vision of how we want to live? And this is a very crucial question we put at the beginning of these transformation processes. And a second factor is the use. So how do we want to use the space, and how can we organize space for multiple and also maybe fragmented society? The design of space in different scales is, of course, still a crucial question. The actors and the stakeholders to involved is also a question we ask at the beginning of processes. Economic things and the organization is a topic which more and more becomes relevant for us, because the question how we organize to manage these changes is even important as the spatial or the programmatic questions. And last but not least, all these factors we have to to regard them on a timeline, and we have to adapt these tools and our spatial designs in different phases of transformation. So this is Mr. Corbusier, and today I'm sure he would have been an urban design DJ, combining all these structures and factors. A brief spot on the demands on more on participation. Common denominator of a lot of trends are the limited resources. And a lot of participation processes deal with the question how we can share these limited resources in future and who has access to these resources. We have we witness increasing matters of public concerns, and there are a lot of people who proclaim to have a stake in these matters. And the question how we can use the power of co-creation for the design of our neighborhoods and cities is, well, it's not new. Since Jane Jacobs, people think about this question, but I think now it has become a new update. What has also become clear to us is that the boundaries between state, market, and civic society, they begin to fade. And I call this diagram from Mercedes star to fried egg. And in the middle of the Mercedes star, between market, state, and civic society, you get the yellow piece of the egg with new types of actors. So you have, for example, the administration. They have not, but they ran out of money, but they stand for the public interest, and they are like a spider in the web with close connections to all actors. You have more and more landlords who are willing to combine their property development with benefits for people in the neighborhood. I already talked about the DIY developer, people who communicate very well, or these hand-on actors who directly want to change things. And we, in our projects, we closely look very well at these different types of actors, because we have found out that they often are self-organized, they are very qualified and specific with specific skills, and they have a strong stake in changing their environment and not only in doing their own things. And there's also a high sensibility to more common-based topics. Usually in former planning processes, we present planning to the people and then they have to accept it. And today, they are at first the people, and the planning has to react on the demands of the people. And this leads us to the question how we can combine the planning processes with participatory demands, and how we can come to co-creation processes. I just want to end my lecture with a brief insight into two projects this is a project we did a couple of years ago in Cologne. And it is called the Parkstadt Süd. As in many cities, the city center of Cologne is surrounded by a green belt, and the south end of this green belt, which links the city to the River Rhine, is blocked with a trade market and a lot of housing. And the idea of the city was to bring this green belt to the Rhine again, and to consolidate the fringe or the edges of the park with new housing programs. And then the city asked us to design a process how to combine the demands of all the people in these surrounding neighborhoods with a new planning. And we started with a process design in the administration. So we asked different departments to join us in designing this process and to integrate the different demands and existing plans into a broader process. In nearly all of our projects, the process design is we regard this process design as an own design task. And in fact, many of the factors of our transformation compass is embedded in these processes. So usually we have different levels. On the one hand, we have a planning level, which is about the spatial design, which evolves in a co-productive process. We have different formats of a dialogue. For example, in public design, we have investigations in economic or climate change we integrate in these processes. And we have, of course, different phases with milestones who characterize our processes. And one crucial phase of the process is, of course, the analysis, but also is the design of the assignment of tasks. So what is the job and what is our goal? And in this process in Cologne, we ask the people to define these tasks, but also the planners. And the planners were not asked to come up with first designs, but to show their perspective on the existing situation of the area. I think this area was about 160 hectares, and the people, they were able to draw their insights. We started with safaris, and they could map their insights, and we evaluated their sheets, and we draw a very huge picture puzzle with all the results of the safari. And what was very interesting to us was that the people, that they had a high knowledge on this space. So they said, well, this might be a good place for a school, or this is a line of a century flood, or we should demolish this building to get a closer connection to the shore, and so on. And this was a very deep knowledge we documented in this picture puzzle. We combined the safari with talks on the future development, and we identified in these talks different values or also future trends which are relevant for the future development. The assignment of tasks consists of different items. So we defined, for example, different qualities. We said, well, look at these and these questions, try to answer them. We had an atlas of resources, and we also, part of the task were also rules of communication, for example. And then the teams entered the second phase, and finally they were allowed to start with their designs. But we asked them not to show plans, but to illustrate their ideas in a basic model. And this was very impressive because with very little means, they succeeded in communicating their key idea to a broad audience of people, and everybody immediately understand the basic idea. So this team, for example, West 8 from Rotterdam, they proposed to have a park in the middle and to divide this park into to profile this park in different sections. And the other team said, well, we don't put the park in the middle, but next to the railway line, and then we have more space for a real dense new neighborhood. And the day after, this was the presentation of the teams on a Friday evening, and on Saturday we opened a big idea market, and there were no ideas of planning teams, but ideas of the people from the safari. And the entrance ticket to this market was a poster, and we asked the people to fill in this poster. So they should write a concept of their idea, which vision propels the idea, who has to be involved, where does it take place. And they had more than 6 weeks to work on these concepts. And this was, and we also gave the opportunity to get advice, and we did some consulting. And after 6 weeks, we had more than 70 posters, and all crucial topics of urban change were represented in these posters. So we had some on flood protection, on climate change, on new housing models, on inclusion, on sports. And the posters look like this. And while there were people, experts on new bike lanes, others really delivered a deep insight into new methods of flood protection. And there were people who made a design for a new stadium and tried to convince the municipality that this is the right place to build the new stadium. And again, others, they engaged an architect and made a plan how to integrate an existing animal shelter into the park. And what was really striking to me, it was a very successful market. This was the ground model of the evening before. We also located all these ideas, and the planning teams were standing around. They listened to the presentation by the people. And in the third phase, it was very striking to me. Some of the teams, they really, like KCRP from Switzerland and Rotterdam, they really took up the ideas of the people and embedded it into their planning. And what was also very interesting was that these plans were very process orientated. So the main point was not, the focus was not on the final picture, but on the transformation process. And within this transformation process, it was possible to integrate multiple range of ideas. In the end, the winning entry was this one, the one who put the park along the railway line. And here you had a dense block structure. This looks quite traditional. And I have to admit, in the end, the people were a bit disappointed because in this plan, they were really looking for their own ideas, but they didn't find them. And afterwards, we tried to convince the administration to more work with these ideas and to integrate them in the plan. We made a plan for a pioneer park, which starts with a small park between the railway lines and a temporary use of the existing buildings. We try to make a plan with phases, but in the end, the municipality did not accept these plans, and it's still vacant. 1, 2, or 3 last slides. This was a real counter project in Switzerland, in Bern, near the station. You have here the main station here, and the Schützenmatte is located right next to the city center. And you have a former military base here, which is squatted by the autonomous punk scene. And this parking lot is a buffer between the Reithalle and the prosperous inner city district. And the city wanted to build a high-rise building here, but there was a lot of conflict on this space. And we again worked with this walkable model, and within a venue or an event, we discussed different scenarios with the people. And what was interesting about this conflict was that different topics merged at this site. So you have the traffic, mobility, the narrative and the role of the spot for the whole city, the conflict between space pioneers and high-rise buildings, the polarization between density and open space, and the need for more enabling spaces. And after the event, we made in 1 week, we transformed the whole area into a playground, the parking lot into a playground, and we tested different ideas and discussed these ideas. And in the end, this was the starting point for new use of this buffer as new dialogue zone in the city. Okay, some outcomes. Well, we found out that it is very important to to involve different spaces, different stakeholders and different groups into these processes, that it is important to face also conflicts and to develop solution among different positions. Process design is a crucial tool in these processes, as well as communication and the different formats of dialogue, and also the combination of with spatial planning. And last but not least, test it one by one and have fun. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Klaus. I don't know if you could hear the round of applause here, but thank you. If there's no urgent questions, we might move on to Nicola. If you want to take over, Nicola, you're very welcome.
Yes, I can.
Sorry, hold on, there's one quick question. Sorry, there's one question before. Yep. Hold on, we need to give you the mic. Sorry, Nicola.
No problem.
Sorry, we would love to stay for the second presentation, but thank you so much for our presentations. They're very informing, and we're very interested in this participation and engagement of people. I'm so sorry because you have to go. I was very curious who the people in the participation in the first project that you showed us were. Whether they were the same people or what was the motive of the engagement. Were they just, I don't know, were they just a group of engaged people? And also one last thing is you do interesting work, and you have the network in Hamburg, Wuppertal, and Berlin, and you also said you work in Switzerland. We're learning of a lot of groups. I mean, also NICOLAS is coming. I'm wondering, is there a network that you use to support, or how do you engage in your separate territories? You know, because there are other urban planners who are active. So yeah, just this question also, like, yeah, how engage in your territories, bearing in mind that there are other specialists, yes, present. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. To the first question, in Cologne, we did a kind of actors mapping, and before we started the project, we got into contact with a lot of initiatives who were not only having a view on the site, but who are engaged in local projects. So there were people within urban gardening, there were entrepreneurs or an initiative who tried to increase biodiversity in this area. And you had very different people. And this was very important for the process to address them before, and to give them a role in the process so that they could bring in their own ideas. And in our projects, we are, as you recognize, we really depend on these local actors, and sometimes it is really difficult to collaborate or to create a breeding ground for collaboration, because we are not based in the city and we come in as externals, and it takes time to build these contacts and to create a sphere where these contacts and collaborations can exist. And the best thing is, or if we are there for a week, and if we have these laboratories where we work with these with the people together, and it's easier to create this network by specific action and hands-on projects than by discussions.
Thank you, KLAUS. Okay, now you're back, Nicola. If you want to take over with your presentation. Thank you very much.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Nicolas. I live in Marseille, in the south of France. I am the director of a Yes We Can collective that we founded 10 years ago. And I would like to share with you some parts of our story and maybe take you on a journey in some of our projects. So let me share my screen. Okay, I hope it's on. So I cannot see you anymore. So please tell me if you don't see it. But for me, it seems to me that sharing the screen is okay. So Yes We Camp, we are a non-profit organization. We created ourselves 10 years ago when Marseille was the European capital of culture. Now we are about 80 employees. And we have also a network of about 200 members that work with us. Some of them, they are cook or they are architects, and we manage different places. I'm going to show you some pictures. So we are very much as field actors. So we have 8 sites in Marseille and in Paris. We also created a university diploma that is called Common Spaces. And we also have a few studies that we do every year, and artistic activation residencies in different cities in France. So first I would like to share with you about our purpose, or maybe our mainspring. Why do we do what we do with Yes We Camp? So this little scheme tells you about this motivation. So first of all, it's the feeling of emergency about today's world regarding ecological issues, biodiversity, climate, and also regarding social issues such as segregation, fear of other people, feeling of helplessness, solitude. So all these troubles that we witness, and it's funny today how there is a kind of a collective knowledge of these problems, but even though we identify these problems and they are now well documented, I mean, when I say we, it's like the human tribe, we fail, or at least we have difficulties to react to these problems that we identify. And through Yes We Camp, to try to gather all the ones that want to take action, to commit, to take part, and that do not want to wait for solutions that are uncertain, solutions that would come from somewhere else. To me, I mean, I don't really trust the system to produce the solutions to the ecological and social problems that we face today. What we witness today is more marginal transformation. I think we need a transformation that is more radical. So the way we want to take our part is to create places. So we are a group, we have architects, we have designers, we have people who will do the maintenance, people will do the cultural programming. So we managed to get places for free that are most of the time vacant buildings or open fields vacant open fields, and so we get them for free for a certain period of time. And these places, we turn them to be platforms for collective invention. So it means that we will welcome different types of uses, different types of social groups, people who are going to create projects, economy, solidarity, with lots of volunteering. So these places will generate a strong local energy. And why do we do that? We do that first for the present time, because it's very, it creates local services, it creates joy, it creates a sense of commitment and responsibility. And what we like is that through making these projects, we create a proof that it's possible for our world to be organized in a different way. And we hope that this proof of concept will produce transformation about social work, about local politics, about city planning. So let me go move on. And I wanted to share also that very simple scheme with you. Yes, we create places to enable or to foster collective action, collective involvement. And so the idea is that we are all in a kind of security zone, or not only security zone, but we all do on a everyday basis what we are supposed to do. We know what we know, and we do what we do. But if we listen to ourselves in our heart, many people would like to do more. We are all ready ready to meet some people that we are not used to meeting. We are ready to learn new skills, to get involved in a new kind of projects. But it's complicated in today's world to escape from the regular daily life. So all the blue circles is all what we could do, and our projects we design them so as they can be tools to enable to activate these resources of wealth that is the collective time, the citizen time. So I would like to present you 2 or 3 projects. This one is in Marseille. We are in the north of Marseille. They are quite famous in France for being dangerous. There are many homicides, many problems of drug dealers, and you can see on this picture the different districts where there are real problems of poverty, of access to health, access to education. But we had the chance. You see all this part. It's quite big. It's 16 hectares. It's a private owner that bought this place for a little amount of money, and he suggested that yes, we could intervene in this space. So I just go through some pictures of what has been this time of a Foresta project. So we stayed there for 6 years, and we left the site end of 2021. So this part of land, this part of the city, used to be garbage. I mean, these were fields that have been moved for the creation of a commercial center, which is very near. And so that was in the 90s. And so 25 years after, the nature has come again. And so it's not really a natural place, because it's not nature that made this space, but it's part. It was a vacant place of the city, and nature had taken over. And so what you can see on these pictures, I guess you can see people, you can see small constructions, lots of people that are having discussions. We transform the site so that it can welcome some families, elders, kids. And the way we work with Yes We Camp is we activate spaces, And then so we come there and we work on a double line, which is social infrastructure and physical infrastructure. So first we need to put some water, some electricity, toilets, and then we wait for users to come, and depending on what they suggest, we try to adapt to permanently adapt the place to what they are suggesting. We also pay attention to local economy. We say, okay, we are creating a park, but it's important that in this park, jobs shall be created. All the neighbors, they live in difficult areas, and there is a real problem of economics for families, for individuals. So we tried to make so that we could welcome some entrepreneurial ideas of neighbors. And if they would come and say, I would like to develop a new project on site, we will try to say yes and to accompany as much as we can. So we also managed to renew all the pathways so that it gets more easy to walk in this former vacant land. We create many stairs. There are 7 entries on this park. I mean, I'm saying a park, but in the beginning, it was not. It was more a technical space, depending on the commercial center. And we decided collectively to name it a park. And now, even though we stopped the project on Google Maps, it's still identified as Foresta Park. So we hope that that all this work that we did for 6 years, the idea of this place being a collective place that will one day be a formal park will exist, will resist. And so, yeah, you can see the kind of works that we did to create playgrounds for kids. Also, you could see, you have seen some horses. It's a family of the neighborhood. They say, we would like to create a horse camp. And they say, okay, let's organize this. And boxes of neighbors, they say that we would like to create a ring of a boxing ring. So each time we try to reveal needs, to reveal desires, and then we organize to create these desires. So this is a drawing that we made of Foresta Park. And we had what you can see here, the one on the left, the big building. We had found money to create it from the European Union, but we ended up not building it, even though we had the money to build it, because before building it, we wanted to have more guarantee, more perspective on the time. We had a convention for 9 years, and we wanted to have 10 more years. And we also wanted to have the support of the municipality, because this project has been very hard. It was hard to manage this whole area. It's very vast. We cannot really control the access because it's completely open. So we needed to have a team of 5 to 10 persons, and it was hard to self-finance. And we also struggled to get the support of the municipality. And so before building getting to a new dimension of the Foresta Park, we wanted to make sure that we would have the support of the local politics, but they never really committed. They say your project is great, but we prefer, we are not ready to really commit. So we decided to run out this space. But what I want to share is that with this methodology that we have, maybe I did not say it in this kind of project we did about 15 of them in the last 10 years. So what we try to create is uses that are proposed and developed by us like an incentive, but what really we like to witness is that other people, other social groups will come and suggest and develop new uses, and also to make so that spontaneous uses will emerge. So I like the word coexistence. That is, I think, the name of the whole semester. This is a word that we use a lot, and the other words that we like a lot is emergence. So we try to make so that things will emerge, like flowers after the rain. And so what will emerge? Uses. So if we say uses, we say users. So we create a community of attention. This is also a word that we like very much, a community of attention. It means the gathering of all the ones who pay attention to a place, because it means that this place is perceived as a resource. And so, and if this place is perceived as a resource, we all understand that we need to create rules to protect this resource. So this is why we are talking about common spaces. So all the users, an economy, which is, I think, very important to not only be on leisure or take part, but also create a local, super local economy. And then all this is very real, very daily, but in the end, it creates something that is an intangible heritage, a kind of identity that can be very strong, a pride to live close to this place, a pride to take part, a pride to take care of this space. So we are, the Collective Yes We Camp is very much dedicated to concrete tasks, but we know that in the end we are creating an intangible heritage. And so these things I want to really share with you is that for city planning, for city development, for territorial development, it's very important not only to focus on physical infrastructure, but to have always the correspondence between social infrastructure and physical infrastructure. Another project I would like to share with you, because this is maybe the biggest one that we've been through. We had the opportunity to be in this place in Paris, in the city center of Paris, for 5 years. So this used to be a hospital, but the hospital left, and the municipality of Paris had the project to renewal, and our works are being done. But so we started this project in 2015, and we ended it in 2020. We used the former rooms of the hospital. They were used to accommodate people that were on the street, homeless people. So we had up to 800 homeless people being accommodated in the Grand Voisin. Donc Grand Voisin is the name of the project. It means great neighbors. So we had emergency housing. Then we also had places of the former hospital that we used to welcome entrepreneurs, associations, companies. So all these names that you can see, these are the names of all the companies and local organizations that were that had their office in the Grand Voisin. So it means that about 1,000 persons used to come here every day for work, and there were co-working spaces. Many guys and girls working on crafts. So it was very impressive. You had the impressions to be in the Asterix village, where on the basement, everyone was doing something with their hands. And then we also organized to open the whole site to public uses. So and day by day, week after week, the whole site turned out to be a kind of collective park. But we did not really change the streets. I mean, this was the open the streets of the hospital. So we did not renew the concrete or the road. We just transformed the outside space so that you had the feeling to be somewhere different, somewhere where you don't really identify where you are. You can see that you are somehow in a hospital. You can see that you are somehow in a place that welcomes that where there is social work, because all the 800 people living here, they were in the street, in the open space, and you could also see that you were in a kind of artistic place. So we had organized a campsite, and we had the different restaurants also on site. And what is interesting is that during COVID, during confinement, we had very quickly we organized ourselves to produce hundreds of meals. In the end, it's 100,000 meals that we produced during the 3 months of the first confinement. And what I like is that it's not especially that we had a big kitchen, but why did we produce so many meals? It's because many people came and say, okay, everything is closed everywhere, and I guess maybe you will be open to, and maybe you will be committed to do something. So it means that this space is a kind of media. It has a special message. It's as if you have like a light shining and say, okay, you can come, okay, you can take part, you can commit. So you transform yourself, because usually you're just a customer or a beneficiary of public services. And here we say, come, you're all welcome to get committed. And like the music you can see on this picture, we did not pay for them to work to come. They suggested they could play music for everyone, and this is how it came. And here is a carnival that we organized, and the cost for us to organize this carnival is €0. We had no concerts, or we just said we want to organize the carnival of the great neighbors. So this is this community of attention that I was talking about. It's usually in some countries, when you say community-based development, you start with the community, and then you create the space dedicated to this community. But we do in a different way. We start from the space, from a place, and this place, if it has political values, will create a community of users, and then we can use this community of users to party, to interact, to connect one with another. And then talking about economy, there were many different small businesses that emerged. I'm not sure that they paid the VAT to the state, but we had good relationship with the police, with the firemen, and we were. It's as if we had a small world, and in our small world, we could organize life in a different way. And with this picture, what I like to share is that you can see that the road, the public space is clean, but we had no cleaning from the municipality. Cleaning and security depended on us, on the community of users. And this community being not one only social group, because we had these multiple reasons to be here, between the ones that were social workers, that were former homeless people, that the ones that would come here to work, to visit some people at work, coming here for a party. And yeah, we had just quickly, we had the opportunity to be presented in Venice for the Biennale, and we say, okay, we don't want only to be represented in the Giardini, in the French pavilion. It's important to do an infinite place also for real, and we managed to have this military compound for 6 months on the Lido Island, and yes, we did what we do usually. We take water, electricity, a kitchen, a bar, places to be able to stay for the night, to sleep over, and then we let things happen. And maybe a last project I wanted to share with you. We are working on it now. So it's in Paris. All of this, all you can see on the picture is urban development zone. It's the last large-scale development zone of the city of Paris. And there is this field in the middle that is going to be a park in the end. And we've been occupying this space for 3 years now. So these are the plans for the future. So you can see in the middle, the future park. And what we are saying now is that we are already creating this park. I mean, we are occupying the space and there are people coming every day, schools, people to party. But the problem of this kind of project is that they are too much fragile. We don't have money. It's hard to pay ourselves. It's hard to offer quality. So what we suggest to the city of Paris is that usually when you create a park in the normal process, you wait, you do some studies. Maybe you have some provisory occupation. And then one day you have a political agreement and you start to spend the big money to do the works. And then the park is here. But in this case, the urban development is very controversial. And there is a strong possibility that nothing starts before 10 to 12 years. So what we tell them is that your project is to have a park. So instead of waiting for 12 years, not doing anything, and then spend a lot of money, start spending the money that you planned to spend later. Start to spend it now to create a progressive park. So for the moment we do not have this money, but we say okay, let's start, and not to be only with the like provisional architecture, and let's create a real buildings that will support local uses. So this is what we've been doing this year, these two buildings, and now we are in discussion with the city of Paris to get this mandate to create not only animation, because we've been existing for 10 years and people used to call us temporary, but I agree on temporary. I mean, it's like seasons, but I don't like what it tells, because to me, what's important is not that things are going to finish. It's more than things are going to initiate, to start. So I like more the concept of emergence rather than the concept of temporary. With Yes We Camp, we go to a place, we create vitality, freedom. We welcome the wheel and to get involved and to take part of many of thousands of people, and then we rely on collective. We rely on the state, I mean on the public institutions, to take over and organize the possibility to carry on. And and just to finish with, this is the kind of matrix of where we want to get, where we want to concentrate our action, and we want to create more involvement. We are working on solidarity, on cultural programming, this idea of progressive planning rather than classical planning. And we really use the restaurants and the bars to be places of that are strongly engaged, committed to ecological and social transformation. This is what I wanted to share with you.
Thank you, Nicolas, for the presentation. I might open the discussion. I guess one thing that was sort of like comes as you were both going through your presentations, but in different ways. At the start, Nicolas, you mentioned joy as sort of an important theme, I think it was, and KLAUS, towards the end of yours, you mentioned have fun as sort of one of the things that you're learning. And in both work that you show and in both sort of different processes, I wonder what are for you those moments, because in a way you might see, KLAUS, you finished with the plan that was sort of that the city to have at the minute decided to go for, that you're again trying to manipulate. And Nicola, you sort of, there is the possibility that the city comes and says that's the end. But I kind of wonder, for you, where are those moments of fun and of joy that you get in working on these projects? I don't know if who wants to take it first.
Mm-hmm.
I think one situation for me when joy comes up is when change takes place and when change becomes livable for a broader community. And in our work, we work more on a strategic level, and I think it's much more easier, as you have seen in the example of examples and projects of NICOLAS, if the change becomes livable on site. And in our projects, we work on this not an academic level, but more on a strategic level, where we prepare on another higher level the prepositions for change. But there we also often have the situation that opposing actors, that they share one vision, and this is also sometimes already after a month, it is a situation of joy when we reach this point.
Yeah, and for us it's a bit similar. We have joy. I mean, when we started to, at the beginning, we did not ask for any subsidies, and then we started to pay salaries to anyone, and we say, okay, we need some money from the public institutions, and so you have to fill in some forms, and they would say, who are your beneficiaries? And we said, it's us. I mean, we are doing that just because we want it, and because we have the joy to get to be part of, to be committed, to take part in the transformation that we are asking for, and so yes, I think it's important to produce this commitment in harmony with oneself, and also we witness every day the satisfaction of all the ones that come on our places and start to take part and get involved. And then maybe there is another level of joy when all this organization that emerges during the specific time of our project will find a way to settle in the future. And now we are just finishing another big project in Marseille, and the municipality has bought the building where we are now, where we've been for 6 years, and they're going to pay for works that have to be done on the building to renew it. But then they are going to keep all the uses that we created. So there's going to be emergency housing, where all the things that we created, they are going to keep it. Maybe without us, but at least they are going to keep the uses. So this is a kind of satisfaction.
No, I think it's something that's important, that there are those moments of fun and of joy, and that especially in process oriented projects, it feels like there can be those moments when you don't get the buy-in from the other parties, and when there are a project has to be let go. And so that's I think it's important that we do have these moments that we that make projects feel worthwhile, and make the idea of the process rather than the project worthwhile, and make that a fun occasion. And in that, it's another, coming from that idea of the process, and you've there's different levels in the way you work on processes, but at the same time, I don't, there's differences in similarities in approach, but one thing that struck me was the idea that in the project you showed in Köln, Klaus, the actors, maybe you can talk more about the actors who were in part of the participative process, but it felt like they were very much of that area. Whereas Nicola, when you were showing your project, you talk about how you take the space and the space sort of creates the community, or it's almost that the actors then find the space. And I just wonder, maybe Klaus, you might explain a bit more who those participants were in the Köln process, that we can just even to see how in one sense it's the space creates the community, but in another sense it's the community who are creating the space, I guess, is felt more was what was happening in Cologne.
Mm-hmm. I think in Cologne the future space was a kind of vacuum, because the people had no access to the site, and they had different different imaginations about the future of the site and different interests. So you had project developers who thought, well, we can build 300 dwellings there. Then you had refugees who thought that they could camp in one of the empty buildings. Or you had a garden initiative which was looking for a new space for their urban gardening, and by setting the whole site on the agenda of a public debate, all these interests became visible, and the people started to create on a common or on a shared vision of the future development. But what was, I think that time is a very important factor in this process, because the future vision, it focused on a period of 15 or 20 years. And the effect was that people have joy and they have a passion they are able and they want to develop these ideas together. But when they realize that there's no chance of a direct implementation, they get frustrated. And from the other way round, if you start with a site, as NICOLAS said, we often made the experience, it's much easier to get people involved, and they come up with their ideas spontaneously, they appropriate the space, they start new entrepreneurs. But if they realize that the preconditions, the framework of the space, that this is very fragile and that there is no long-term perspective, they can also become very frustrated, because they put a lot of energy in the temporary use, and then they realize they have to start anew, or they have to remove and look for another site. So I think both is quite important. The combination of short-term and long-term perspection.
And it feels almost as well the idea that somehow if you could temporarily use a space and at the same time do a sort of a long-term strategic planning of it, that in that sense you could maybe mix or maybe make it a space that that fulfills those needs or that meets those needs.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone here got a question? Francis, do you want to give him the microphone? That's up here on the table beside you.
Yeah, it's a question for both of you. since some of your projects or your activities are funded through subsidies or with public money, what is your relation to public institutions? Like as I understood from Yes We Camp, you're active in like the emergent phase, when there's something planned to implement in this intermediate phase. Yeah, so basically my question is, what is your relation with public institutions and like their planning department?
Klaus, you want to answer first?
Yeah, we are commissioned by public authorities, and they have budgets for these overall plannings. And if we sometimes we also do some public interventions, and often the money comes from the cultural sector. But a crucial question is often how one can manage to consolidate the projects, and to also from the perspective of the funding and the financing to create a framework in which these projects can emerge in a long-term perspective. And sometimes there is a lot of energy on a temporary spot, but if the site and the project runs out of money, all activities collapse. Have you made this experience, NICOLAS? Or how do you manage that the emergence and energy, that it doesn't fail? And
for us, we like to say that we are responsible for the emergence. We are responsible for things to start. So we get organized for this. But then the responsibility of things that have emerged to get in the long term, to us, it's the responsibility of public institutions. So yeah, we always manage to get up to the end of our projects, but what comes next is not our sole responsibility. And as years now, we really try to work more on what we call a frame of cooperation. For our different projects, the relations that we have with the public institutions are not stable. They don't really trust us. Sometimes they fear us, or they don't take us seriously. So we are either too fast, or we are too beatnik, or I don't know. But we are not really seen as professionals. We are sometimes seen maybe too much as like activists. But so they like the result, and usually when they see the project that some of the project that we managed to create, they say, "I want the same." But we say we have no products to sell. We need to work on the basis of a context, and we cannot promise that things will be this way or this way. And so it's always hard to find a good level of connection. On our side, we need to grow. I mean, we need to be able to say this is what we are going to do, and to commit ourselves in a professional way. And on their side, they need to be able to adapt. So for now, except on the last project that that I presented in Paris. Whoops. Okay, are you here? Yes, sorry. Except on the last project that we presented in Paris, we are having a good level of connection. They really want us to be part of the long-term city development process, and we are paid for this. We joined the team of urbanists. That is the chief urbanist of the whole zone, and we are working on this new methodology of progressive urban development. And now we are going to present that to the head of the urban developers and to the mayor of Paris in the coming weeks. So yes, my answer is a bit, we still need to find our way to get connected and to superpose. I mean, it's important that we take our responsibility as citizens, as entrepreneurs, because if the project like Grand Voisin, the ones that are in the former hospital, many politicians came, but they not only came to visit, they really came to spend 2 hours with us to have deep discussions. And they would always say, hopefully we were not on board, because at many moments we would have blocked the process. So it's good that the responsibility is taken by civil society, but then we need to superpose. Once we have accomplished our mission to reveal, we ask the state or the municipality to take over and to prolongate what we managed to start. And so prolongate in the urban planning process, but also in the social process, in the daily life process. If we organize that school, the kids can interact with the local craft people of the district, the city could take over and prolongate this program. So we feel ourselves in a place of initiating possibilities of connection, and then we would like to have more support and superpositions with the local powers, public powers.
And who is, for example, running the buildings you built afterwards, or are they temporarily?
So this is still on process. They are being on works, but what is in the two cases, after the Grand Voisin, after the hospital, it's still being renewed. And then they're going to have different lots. It's separated. And now they came again to us 2 or 3 years after to ask if we could come in the future neighborhood to organize the collective life. And I really enjoyed, KLAUS, your drawing and sketches, and the one with Corbusier being a DJ. And some people tell us that we are DJ of uses. And you know, when you are a good DJ, it's not only that you have good music, you put the good music at the good time, at the right time. And so I think we have the feeling of creating the collective energy because we are good DJs of uses. And now on 3 different projects that we have been, where we were the animators, the managers, the future owner are asking us to be part of the future project. So I think we are going to test that, but I am not sure that it's going to work, because when we are in the emergent phases, there is all the community is very dedicated to create, to take part, to invent new way of life. Once we'll be in the future project with normal people, sorry to say this way, I am not sure that we will be able to create this good atmosphere. Maybe yes, maybe no. So, but we are going to try. Sorry, there's no sound. Okay.
Thank you for your answers. Maybe I just have one small question left. You mentioned that sometimes money is coming from like the cultural department to make the project work or come together. and that's something yeah, I also see in my, like, where I'm from, that often good architectural interventions or urbanistic interventions need to become feasible or to be implemented. They need this part of cultural funding coming in. And I wonder how you feel about this, because sometimes I think it's a bit weird at times that then at a certain point there needs to be a dossier for it to be a cultural program. Why can it not be just a very good urbanistic intervention? Or
I think that the people in the cultural sector, that they have how do you say, they have very good antennas for social dynamics or change in societies, and
People in the cultural sector.
yeah, and they are able to make these dynamics visible by creative means. And there are a lot of my colleagues, for example, you certainly know Raumlabor. They have specialized, like you, they are specialized on these spatial interventions and making dynamics of a site visible. And they do it very effective, and they also are very successful in connecting people and in showing local resources, and also in designing icons which are fixed on the mental map. And I think this is a skill which a lot of urbanists lack, and they are a lot of architectural students. They are still focused on high glossy publications and building designs without people, and they discuss on details or on shapes. And I still do believe that the quality of a building, that this is very important, and that the skill to design is also quite important. But I think there could be a very close interface between this cultural and the urbanistic view on the city, and both could much more benefit from each other than it is nowadays. To me, it appears that the cultural resources, they are often limited. They are limited to a site and one spot, and also to a time. And a lot of cultural activists are like a nomadic caravan, moving from site to site and hopping from event to event. And of course, the energy they unfold on a site, it's enormous and it's overwhelming. But it would be greater if one could manage to transform this energy into a longer perspective. For example, there's one actual example here in Wuppertal at the Piener Bausch Zentrum. Piener Bausch has been a famous dancer, and She died a couple of years ago, but she left a very famous company. And the new director of the Pina Bausch Center, they also engaged Raumlabor for intervention on a spatial intervention on recycling and material cycles. And I think this is the big contribution of the cultural scene, that they do not only focus on their stages, but also they leave their theaters and they take positions in the urban environment. And they made, for example, a kind of structural shell with recycled wooden panels from old doors or buildings. And it has really become an icon, and it attracted a lot of attention. But now the director is looking for an initiative which runs this space in future. And I think the design of sites, the design of social structures or even organizational structures, the design of a finance program, this has also this has to be combined in processes, and this is as complicated as designing a building.
I think as need to kind of on that. I think there's a few of our students are finding the design programs is difficult designing the semester. But Nicola, I'm also wondering if you know where, in that sense, within the municipalities when you're working with them, where you're getting backing and where you're coming up against a block.
Sorry, I could not hear you very well. Did you ask about the fundings?
If you're finding what parts of the municipalities are supporting you, such as KLAUS was talking about the cultural departments, and then what parts of the municipalities are more against, or where you're feeling it's tougher to get your projects sort of through past their doors.
Well, as for us, maybe 80% of our economy is money that we make with our restaurants, with the bars, when we have a place and we welcome dozens of people that come here to work. They pay a loan. It's not a loan, they pay a contribution to expenses. So it makes a regular income, which is the most significant basis of our income. And then sometimes we get some subsidies, but they're hard to find because we are multiple connected. It's not only social work, it's not only cultural work. So when we have a meeting with the deputy mayor on a cultural action, we say, oh, that's very great what you do, but you should see my colleague for collective education, and then the colleague for city planning, and then so it's a bit a hard time to find the good the good canal of connection to get the funding. So now we really are more we pay more attention before starting a project, that we have everybody around the table to get the fundings and also to get the evaluation, because we want to be evaluated. And then authorities, they ask us to do the self-evaluation, but we want them to evaluate. And we want to have, when we start a project, to be say, okay, on what kind of criteria would we be happy with the project? Maybe we want visitors, tourists, maybe we want social work, or we want economy, jobs to be created. And then we say the objectives, like with figures, very, and so that we can assess, because our projects sometimes they're a bit like they are open bar. We could also do more and more and more, and this is why also my colleagues they get burnout because we want to be more and more committed. But some projects they are already completely great. I mean, they are more mixed, they are more productive. There is a very good intensity of uses. All the rooms are being used. They'll be being used during the day, during the night, during the weekend, during the holidays. I mean, we are already on top of what can be done in a kind of ecological and social virtue in the city fabric. But we need assessment of this activity. So now that we're working on new project, we want to really have a good board, I would say that a comité de pilotage, a steering committee, a committee with the state, the municipality, all the different layers of public institutions. And we want to share with them our desires, our difficulties, and to have a collective vision of the money, of the budget, and all the externalities, positive externalities that are being produced. But our main challenge now is to create a better connection with the public institutions, and not only with city planning, and also with the production of daily services to a population. With the target to create more involvement and a collective involvement.
One question from me to all of you. Which conclusions did you draw from our inputs to your work? No conclusions?
Very quickly, a conclusion also because I have a question. But I was just thinking that we work in a project at the territorial scale project that require planning and foreseeing of what the vision is to happen next in the city. I think it is refreshing to see also the very temporary, short-term, and the now kind of activities that need to take place, also to kick off even just the thinking of the future of these places. I think that was, at least in my opinion, very interesting and nice to hear from you. I just have a very quick question. I'm very curious to NICOLAS. I was wondering whether there has been a case where you provided the platform and it sort of it did not happen the way that you imagined it. You were mentioning the DJ earlier, where you played the music not in the right time. And I was just wondering whether you encountered that kind of situation. But maybe someone else can also answer if there's
Did you want to take that question?
Sorry to that. I did not hear very well, but I think you asked for some uses that kind of fail. I mean, when the DJ is not good and the music does not fit. But maybe sometimes, as we welcome on our sites people in situation of precarity, of violence, we have violence on site sometime, and so we need to intervene. And also sometimes we had some problem with young people that would settle in the middle, put the music loud, and then maybe to have a drug dealing. So in this case, and they say, hey, this is a place, you said it's a place for all of us. This is also our place. And say, okay, it's your place, but in a way that this place can also be the place of the others. And so sometimes we had to close the site. We had to call the police. We had to exclude some persons. And then we had some of my colleagues, they had been they have been insulted. So sometimes we work in a proximity with violence, so sometimes violence comes, but it's not that often. And even the police station, they say, we have had so few problems with you. We have more problems with the bar around the corner than with your place with the 800 violent people. And sometimes another thing that can fail is to attract. When we start a new project, it's hard to start and to have the good balance between the different social groups, especially when we intervene in poor places, poor districts. It takes time to take the confidence, especially when people are, well, it's really harder to do this kind of project in poor districts because, people do not have money to come. Sometimes they have different, there is an intercultural topic. I mean, it's in our team, even though on our site there is a great diversity of cultures and skins and people. In the team of Yes We Camp, we are maybe two whiteys. I don't know how to say that. And so it's important to the start of the project are very important. The projects needs to look alike what we want it to be in the future, but from the very start. And now that we're working on a new big project in Marseille, we took 2 years of discussions with the local people because it's in a district of Marseille, which is very intercultural and with many problems of violence and poverty. So if we arrive and say, hey, come, it's open to everybody, it doesn't mean that the people will feel the legitimacy in their deep soul, in their body, to come. It's not because it's written well open to anyone that anyone can come. So we really need to work the feeling of legitimacy. Legitimacy, is that correct? For people to feel legitimate, to be part and to come.
Thank you. Any other questions? Tommaso,
if there are no other questions from there, and I also see that it's already it's already 8:30. I'm not sure mine is a question, but please consider it as a question, even if it's not formulated with a question mark at the end, because I was, I think the two presentation, your presentation, both of them, in a way resonate with what we are trying to do. That's quite clear to me, at least. Although there are differences eventually in the perspective, in the point of view. In my personal understanding, for instance, what I would consider a link in between what you two presented today and what we are trying to do is somehow what we defined previously already as the principle of hope. The idea that, in fact, you two reacted in different moments. With Urban Catalyst, it was beginning of the 20s, and Yes We Camp, it was 10 years later, but you reacted to a sort of weakness of design, no? A sort of condition in which urban design, traditional urban design, top-down, arriving with it, clearly manifested some limits, in fact. And what is driving you, I think, is something very similar from that is also driving us, the idea that, in fact, design do matter, and the fact that we can present different alternative futures is important. And that's why we, I'm sorry, Klaus, I agree with you that the idea of countering something is eventually not always a positive attitude toward things. Nevertheless, in our understanding, this countering approach means that we clearly state that we disagree. And the disagreement, I think, is in what you are doing fundamental, and so it is in what we are trying to do. The idea that, in fact, before proposing an alternative, you have to understand alternative to what. So which are the elements that you do not agree with, and in which direction you want to move forward with your contribution. And this idea of hope is coupled with a second point of contact, I would say, that is the idea of a certain weakness, nevertheless, of the contemporary design, let's say, contribution. We assume, and at least this is what we are trying to do, and I had the impression that in most of your words was also there, we assume that design is also a weak intervention that can contribute in a way, and then it has its own limit. It needs to find networks. That's why in Yes We Can, for instance, it's not just a matter of architects, you have also other expertise, and you really need to rely on those, because we cannot, at the same, there is the hope, but it is also the fact that we cannot change the world alone. And assuming weakness, for me, is really a major epistemological shift in the way in which we look at design. So I think that these two elements, the idea of being conscious of the fact that we really need to acknowledge the capacity of the project to change things, but also at the same time to understand and simply assume our weakness. I think these were two very important lessons for us today.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Mike, I don't know. I think I would just leave you the final words.
Yep. On that strong comment on weak structures. No, I will thank you both very much, Nicola and Klaus, for your presentations today. I found them very enriching, and I think they did touch on a lot of what we're trying to look at this semester, and definitely raised a few questions that we will hopefully be discussing tomorrow in studio. So thank you very much, and hopefully look forward to seeing you again sometime here in Lausanne as well.
Thank you very much. Have a nice
Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Goodbye, Klaus. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.